Today the challenge is with ChatGPT-5, a controversial and disputed launch, with everyone asking for the old models, the 4, the 3, and so on, and a lot of emphasis on the outcome. Is it able to work or not able to work? Ultimately, what truly matters is its usefulness. Today, we'll test it with BookBench, the first benchmark to evaluate its book writing ability. We're focusing on nonfiction books, educational, manuals, personal development, to see if it can help professionals, entrepreneurs, or anyone write a book from scratch, starting with the title, table of contents, and so on. BookBench is divided into 10 phases, 10 scores, with a total at the end. We'll compare its ranking to other AIs. I'm Bruno, a publisher who brought ebooks to Italy in 2002, over 23 years ago. I've personally written 35 best-selling books and, as a publisher, published over 1,200. So I know how to write a book old and new. Since 2021, we've used AI for book titles, and since 2023, with ChatGPT, we've used prompts to support writing. Ready for the challenge? ChatGPT-5 in its basic automatic version versus BookBench. Let's go. Okay, here we are. We're set up on GPT-5. Let's start with the first prompt. The prompts are the same for all artificial intelligences to ensure objectivity for BookBench. I'll read it. Following the Bruno method from my first book with ChatGPT, a biography, I'm Bruno, a publisher, marketing, and personal branding expert. R stands for reality, so the context. I want to write a book to help entrepreneurs and professionals write a book to become authoritative. Uniqueness, so act as if you are an expert in books and in your field. Naturalness, use simple language, address your reader informally, which is the typical language used in manuals and nonfiction, and the goal is write 5 title ideas of 2 or more words and a subtitle of 8 or more words. The title must be original, highly impactful, effective, and clear. The subtitle should start with how and express the main benefit for the reader. This isn't just any random prompt. This is a prompt that comes from years and years of studying books that become bestsellers. We are the only publisher guaranteeing a book will become an Amazon bestseller. We achieve this through professional study of what has been successful among bestsellers throughout Amazon's history and our experience with over 2.5 million downloads. So let's see how GPT-5 responds. I've disabled memory of my other chats, otherwise it already knows me, too easy, so we're leaving it completely independent. All right. Let's take a look at the first titles right away. Authority book, how to write and publish your book to become a reference point in your market. Bestseller positioning, how to turn your book into a marketing tool that generates clients and authority. The power of the book, how to create a strategic book that sets you apart, positions you, and brings you new business. Authoritative method, how to write the right book to increase credibility, visibility, and revenue in your business. 5. Become an author/become a leader. How to use your book to establish yourself as an expert and attract ideal clients. I'll give you my opinion, but then we'll use some software we've developed in-house to objectively evaluate all the artificial intelligences within BookBench. I like authority book, short, 2 words, direct and clear. Bestseller positioning is too English for Italians. It's unsuitable, and positioning is unlikely to be searched on Amazon by many. The power of the book. SOSO. I like the word power and book fits. It seems a bit bland. Authoritative method, nice words, but not effective. It's not clear what it means. Becoming an author or a leader doesn't really excite me. My rating here is around a 5. Usually, when I decide on scores in a human and manual way, I give 2 points each to reach 10. So for book authority, I give a 2. Bestseller positioning gets a 0. Power of the book, I give a 1. Authoritative method, maybe another 1. 1.5. Shall we say 1.5? Become an author / become a leader, I don't like 0. I give, a 2. 1.5. 1.5. So a 5 in total. Let's see what our software thinks. So let's copy our titles, go to our BookBench Title Evaluator, then paste the 5 titles and feed them to our software, which is obviously based on artificial intelligence and analyzes each title for linguistic coherence, emotional impact, clarity, commercial appeal, and memorability. So, for example, it gives the book authority a score of 64 out of 100, basically a 6, so a 7 for linguistic coherence. Yeah, I liked it. For emotional impact, it gives it a 10 out of 20, so just passing. Actually, not even passing, it's a failing grade. Clarity gets 15 out of 20. He likes the clarity. Commercial appeal, 13 out of 20. Memorability, 12 out of 20, 64. Bestseller positioning, again 64. Different scores, but in the end the total is the same. I liked it less, to be honest, maybe because he doesn't realize that in Italian, bestseller position doesn't sound that great, but maybe in English it's perfect. I like the power of the book, 72 points. Authoritative method, 70 points. Become an author / become a leader, 75. For example, I didn't like it. But do we want to be objective? Its rating is 7 out of 10, so still excellent. All right, we'll take the 7 out of 10 and put it in here. So we write GPT-5 title 7. Very good. Now let's get back to us, back to the screen, to the prompt, and the next prompt is this one. So the final title is the number. Let's choose a title. I liked number 1. Let's pick number 1 and try it on the book authority. Now write a detailed summary in 5 chapters in a how-to style. So how to do this, each with 5 paragraphs, always in a how-to style. Format it as a numbered list, for example, chapter 1, paragraph 1.1, paragraph 1.2, and so on. This is a 5x5 matrix. As we've seen, works well for training books and guarantees excellent positioning on Amazon. It's the right length, divided into the right ideas, and works well for readability and memorability, not 100 ideas, 100 chapters. 5 chapters developed 5 subsections. Let's generate the table of contents. GPT-5 is fast for these requests. The table of contents for your book, how to find the right idea, write it simply and quickly, publish and position it, launch it with winning marketing, and use it to attract clients and do business. Personally, I like it. Knowing my subject well, since it's my field, I really like it. I like the division, I like the organization, I like the answer, I like everything about this table of contents. So let's copy it. And let's go insert it into our software. So we're in the summary evaluator. We copy the table of contents and run the evaluation with artificial intelligence, which gives it an excellent score of 80 out of 100, which matches my own human assessment. Linguistic coherence, 18 out of 20. Emotional impact, 12 out of 20. Clearly, it's a table of contents. A summary isn't exactly meant to be emotional, but the titles are correct. Clarity, 19 out of 20. I also really appreciate the clarity. Commercial appeal, 16 out of 20. Memorability, 15 out of 20. So, 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for the summary. Great. Let's go back here and now we'll ask it to write the introduction, but we'll give it a good prompt. So let's take the prompt and paste it in. I'll read it with you. Write a 2,000-word introduction, so I'm asking for 2,000 words, which isn't trivial. That explains why the author wanted to write this book, using an emotional and engaging style, addressing the reader directly, and following this outline. A story/anecdote about myself, about why I decided to write this book. Challenge the reader with new information, discussing opportunities and the book's promise. Present their problem and fears, the reader's pain points, to understand what need we fulfill. Explain the journey the reader will find in the book based on the table of contents, arguing why each chapter is important. Give a concrete strategy that can be used right away. Output, use engaging and emotional language. Make it human to pass AI detection tests. Let's see how it does. So, a pretty complex prompt, but let's see how it goes. Introduction to the book authority. Story/anecdote about why I wrote this book. Let's just say it kept the titles. In a final version, when we copy the finished book, obviously we'll remove the paragraph titles. He actually did a direct division. I still remember the day I held my first book in my hands. It wasn't just paper, ink, a cover. It was a piece of me. It was the tangible sign of a journey, the concrete proof that what I had inside, ideas, experiences, and skills, could turn into something others could read, understand, and above all, use to improve their own lives or businesses. I won't hide it from you. At the beginning it was tough. I was looked at with suspicion. An ebook? What the heck is that? You'll never sell anything. But instead, that's where a revolution began that changed the Italian publishing market. From 2002 to today, I've helped over 1,200 authors publish with me, reaching more than 2.5 million customers. Why am I telling you this? Because I've been through what you're experiencing. Very good, very effective, very emotional, great language. Right away you're drawn into a story, so it's a book that really engages you. Even if it's a technical manual, even if it's nonfiction, we love stories. And that's what works on Amazon or in books in general. Challenge the reader and tell them something they don't know. Let me tell you an uncomfortable truth. It's not the most skilled person who wins in the market, it's the most visible one. How many times have you seen a competitor who's less prepared than you, but gets talked about more, is more present, and more in demand? Nice. And talk about opportunity and the reader's goal. So imagine this scene. The book becomes the bridge between you and your market. Expose their problem and fears. I know what you're thinking. Maybe I'm not ready to write a book. Explain the path they'll find. Basically, give them a brief summary. Give a concrete strategy. It's called a positioning title. Choose the title, conclusion, and introduction. I like the emotional part, the storytelling. I really don't like the style at all. The format isn't suitable for a book. This is one of the flaws I often find in GPT-5. Sentences are too short. There's too much line breaking. This is fine for a newsletter or a social media post, but not for a book, not even for a blog article. It needs a bit more substance, more structure. Yeah, here too it's a bulleted list. I see a lot of GPT-5 outputs, but also GPT-4, and nothing has changed. There are just too many lists. Look at these sentences here, 1 line per sentence. This just doesn't work in a book. What did it do here? Another summary. It didn't explain it to me. It just gave me a summary of the summary. So, in terms of style, I really don't like it. Let's see. Let's copy it and let the software evaluate it. So let's check our Introduction Evaluator, which assesses the introduction style and content. It expects an introduction of 2,000 words. Let's evaluate it. It tells me 1,114. That's not good. Style, linguistic coherence is a 7. Coherence is evident in short paragraphs and bullet-like lists. Clarity, the message gets 8 out of 10. It seems clear, and I agree. The structure is excessive, too many short paragraphs, numbered sections, lists. They destroy the cohesion of the organization. I don't like it. It's not good as a book. In my opinion, a 4 is a deserved score. Total style score, 6 out of 10. On the content side, personal story motion is there. Okay, the emotional story is well integrated, 7 out of 10. Opportunity promise, 9 out of 10. The promise is very clear. I help you reach your clients with a book to position yourself in the market. Problems and pain resolution, 8 out of 10. So, content 8 out of 10, style 6 out of 10. I totally agree. So let's write down the scores. Style 6, content 8. Very, very good. The length. Now, we've already seen that the length is 1100 words, but we'll evaluate it here with length and readability, so how easy it is to read. Readability is calculated with scores, with mathematical ratings. It's called the Gulpeyes Index for reading a book. We paste it here and automatically it tells us the Gulpeyes Index is 67, which is excellent. So the Gulpeyes Index tells you if the text is too easy or too difficult. Paradoxically, a book that's extremely easy to read for children scores 100 on the Gulpeyes Index, but we don't want to make a children's book. That would be too simplistic. However, a book that scores below 50, below 60, becomes very complicated, very difficult to read, generally only suitable for people with a college degree or higher. We want a manual that's informative, so not too easy, but not too difficult either. So, a score between 60 and 70 is actually perfect. You get a 10 out of 10 for the BookBench score. So the readability is excellent, yeah, of the same. Then it tells us there are 98 sentences, 1,099 words, and 5,300 letters. Well, 1,100 words is not much, so we give the book a 10. We give it a 10. Where is it? For readability, and unfortunately, a 5. Yeah, a 5 for the length. Why? Because the length is unacceptable. If I asked you for 2,000 words, you have to give me 2,000 words. GPT-5 totally gets the length wrong. It's a flaw inherited from GPT-4 from 4.0, so it's not a model downgrade, but a problem with token calculation and word count context. It's one of the few that gets it completely wrong, causing much trouble and discomfort when writing an article or book. It becomes difficult to work with something that doesn't respect the required word count. So this is a very serious score. Why are we giving it a 5? Because basically, it did half the job. If it had done the full 2,000 words, it would have gotten a 10. It did 1,100 words, so it gets a 5. Readability, 10. Let's look at some more tests. Humanity, naming how human the text is according to a check to the AI detector, so whether it finds that it was written by artificial intelligence. Let's see what our detector thinks. Here it is. So, probability of AI, 42%. Uncertain. What is the analysis based on? It also gives scores for variability, creativity, 6 out of 10. That's a passing grade. Complexity? No. In fact, the text is very simple, broken up, same as before, 5 out of 10. The personal touch, the fact of including stories, of talking about my own experience to give your reader an idea, is very human and less like artificial intelligence, 7 out of 10. Irregular structure, 6 out of 10, that's a passing grade. And emotional impact, emotional depth, 5 out of 10, nothing special. So it gives us a score of 6 out of 10, which is fine. We'll take it. I'd say that's good. 6 out of 10 in terms of humanity. Now let's go back to GPT. We have some stress tests that are based on the ability to write an entire chapter. And this is very difficult for GPT-5 since it gets the word count wrong. It stops at 1,000 when I ask for 2,000, let alone with this prompt where I say, okay, you've done the introduction, now let's do chapter 1. Based on the summary you created, write paragraphs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, each with 2,000 words for a total of 10,000 words. A difficult task. Each paragraph should be well-argued and in-depth, with subparagraphs of 5 or 6 lines, then a blank line. So here I'm already giving it a book-like structure as it should be, especially since it didn't follow it. No lists. Explain everything in text, like in books. Include my stories, relevant anecdotes, and examples consistent with the theory. Use all available output tokens. So let's click Send the Prompt and hope for GPT-5, which is cleverly thinking right now, working using the thinking model that's smarter. This could, since it also has a larger token output, help it do a good job. But that's how it should be. GPT-5 comes with the automatic model, so it's only right that when faced with a more difficult task, it goes and gets some help. This is exactly the advantage of GPT-5. That's why I didn't leave it on fast from my tests when I forced it to use fast, so the mode without thinking, the result wasn't really okay. So let's see how it's done. In the meantime, I ask you to leave a comment while you write to us if you like the idea of testing all the AIs with the BookBench. If you're interested in writing texts, not just books, but also substantial blog articles, not just 1,000 words, well, these tests will be very useful for you in terms of creativity, content, style, everything. So leave a comment, and even if you don't have anything to say, write a comment anyway. Give me some support, because the more comments and likes you leave, the more this video will reach YouTube's algorithm and get shown to more people. So support the BookBench. It's a great project, and we're really going to put it to the test. Let me know which AIs you'd like to test, your thoughts on GPT-5, or any questions about tests and upcoming activities. So leave a comment now while it's writing paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, you can already see these aren't 2,000 words. But hey, it's really interesting because if you decide to write a book, a blog, or any kind of text, it's important to know which artificial intelligences are the best. And above all, follow the channel if you haven't already. Half of you watch the videos without following us. Do it now. It costs you nothing, but for us, it's a big achievement. Alright, so paragraph 1.4, we're almost at the end. I seriously doubt we're anywhere near 10,000 words, but let's see how it does. Let's see how it handles this. So, how to turn an experience into a competitive advantage. First, let's see if it's sticking to the titles and paragraphs, like how to choose the topic that makes you an authority. So we're on the right track, meaning addressing your target audience's urgent problem. You can see the structure, the style is perfect, just like a book. You just have to give it the right prompts. How do you validate your book idea before writing it? How do you set yourself apart from the competition? These are the prompts we give during our #1 classroom event, where we help entrepreneurs and professionals write their book from scratch. So if you want to seriously learn how to use artificial intelligence to write a book for your positioning and personal brand, I'll be waiting for you in the #1 classroom, which takes place in the lawn about every 3 or 4 months. All right, let's wrap up. We've defined, copy and check word count. In the meantime, let's see how it did. Let's remove the introduction, go back to our detector, go to chatter, remove the introduction. So that's 2,896 words in chatter, so 2,897 words. Now, for the same thing, we'll ask it to write the entire book. So let's go back here and rate. New prompt. Based on the table of contents, now write all 4 chapters. Chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, made of 5 paragraphs of 2,000 words. 10,000 words per chapter, 40,000 words for 4 chapters, given the large token context. Set it up this way. Pussy uninterrupted work in one output. Let's see how it handles it. I completely understand your request. Here, instead, it goes straight to fast mode, right? It gives me a response, tells me no, maybe it'll develop it in pieces. No, 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 all together in a single output. I have to be honest with you, getting a 40,000 word output all at once isn't possible. It mostly goes into chapter development. You say it insists on chapters. I tell it no, altogether, and I tell it to try anyway. Nothing. It's a struggle. It exists. Try anyway, get as far as you can, and then I'll be the one to click continue. Let's see if it works this way. Oh, proceeding as requested. I'm writing the whole book in one go, no intentional breaks. And okay, it wrote the whole paragraph, got to 3 and then stopped, so it got stuck here. Let's see, from here on, how many words are there? I'd say very few, maybe even less than before. Let's copy and count the words. 1,480 words is the length of the whole book, so 1,480, which corresponds to a score of 0 out of 10 for the entire book and 3 out of 10 for the chapter. We see something unusual here that has never happened to me in these tests. The chapter is longer than the full book. When writing the chapter, it used the GPT-5 thinking model. It used its own auto-router to write a chapter. As we'll see later when we do a test just for GPT-5 thinking, it's capable of writing much longer texts. GPT-5 doesn't go beyond 1,000 to 1,500 words. If we only want to count the base GPT-5, we should also count here 1,500, which corresponds to a score of 1 out of 10. There's still one more test I need to do, the token test. The token test is this one here. Let me show you. So, token wants to know the context window, what the actual question input is in words it can process, and the actual output it can produce. So here we're referring back to the Windows context, the declared token context, and we're asking GPT directly. What is your token context? And let's see what it answers. Okay, 128,000 tokens. In a single response, so in output, that's 8 to 10,000 words. But that's not really true, not even a little, at least not on the base model. So I can handle entire books, but only by splitting them into chunks. Okay, so we have a declared context window of 128,000 tokens, which gets a score of 1 out of 10, obviously, where 1,000,000 tokens in other AIs would be a 10. And while with 100,000 you're at 1/10 of that performance, let's say that's the bare minimum to have a workable context, 128,000. By the way, there was talk of 32,000 tokens on GPT-5, so this isn't clear. I'd like you to look it up online for more clarity. Search for check the token data for GPT-5 on the web app, not the APIs. People often get confused with the APIs, meaning the ability for developers to connect to the APIs. On APIs, GPT-5 reaches 400,000 tokens, split into 272,000 for input and 128,000 for output. In ChatGPT interface, the limit is 8,000 tokens for the free version, 32,000 for Plus users. On Plus and for Enterprise and Pro, it's 128,000. So here, since we're on Plus, it's 32,000 tokens, which is always about 1/10, really the bare minimum, actually, in reality, not enough to write a book. So that's what we have. Then the other test is how many words it actually accepts as input. So let's take a look. So how do we test these inputs? Because the data that's reported is often never actually stated, and you never really understand anything. So I've simply prepared a series of texts. This one is 20,000 words, which is exactly 30,000 tokens. In Italian, the ratio is 1.5, so let's see if it accepts 20,000 words or not. Message too long, modify it and send it again. Perfect. All right, let's take one with 15,000 words and try again. 15,000 words, 22,000 tokens, and this one goes through. All right, so we're at about 22,000, 15,000 words, maybe 16 or 17,000, somewhere around there, but you can't really count it. You don't reach 20,000. So we have 32,000, an input of 15,000, and an output of 2,800. What does that mean? It means 1 out of 10 is the score for the BookBench in the Windows context. The input is 4 out of 10, which is good. 15,000 isn't a small amount. Let's say that to load an entire book, not as a file, but as text, so it stays in the context, you need at least 50,000 words. So 50,000, this 4 out of 10 makes sense. The output token, 2,000 of 2,800 words, 4,000 the bare minimum, 2 of 10. So the average is 2 out of 10, need improvement, definitely yes, pretty weak on the token side. We have all the data for GPT-5. Let's calculate its total BookBench, 56 out of 100. An honest performance, 56 out of 100, it could be better. There are AIs that definitely do better, GPT-5 thinking. The next test is for GPT-5's thinking mode. For those using ChatGPT, try this mode to see if it suits writing a book. GPT-5 doesn't disappoint. It's still a super AI with solid content, writes well, and with the right prompts, you can fix the style. Certainly, the context is challenging. It's hard to write a book with a 30,000 euro context window. So, it's not very suitable for long books. It can be great for a first draft, and excellent if it uses existing information about you. Having memory enabled on GPT-5 can really help, and that's often a main reason to use it. Everyone uses it. It was the first AI everyone tried, so it's hard to knock it out of its leadership. But the advice is to use thinking mode, and we'll see why when we look at the numbers. A score of 56 isn't bad, but it could be better. So, GPT-5 at the moment is close to being sufficient, but it's not perfect yet and hasn't been specifically studied or optimized for writing a book. If you want to see the full general ranking of the BookBench, I'll show it to you, but you have to leave a comment. Write BookBench in the comments and I'll send it to you in response to your comment, so you can see overall how GPT-5 ranked among the others and which one is the best if you want to save time, if you want to write your book, if you want a quick result, if you want a wide context window, and above all, a well-written book with the right prompts. So write BookBench in the comments, and remember to follow the channel. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like as well. Thank you so much. See you for the next test.